Welcome back to the Sequential Zohar. In this video, we are picking up exactly where we left off, moving into chapter 2 of Parasha Beresheet A. This chapter is called the brightness of the firmament, and it is one of the most foundational passages in the entire Zohar. Because what we are about to walk through is nothing less than the Zohar's own account of how the infinite light of the Creator was concealed, structured, and then channeled into the architecture of creation itself. As always, in this series, we are reading verse by verse in order so that each layer builds on the last. And this chapter is where the Zohar reveals something extraordinary, that the first verse of the Torah, Beresheet Bara Elohim, is not just a statement about creation. It is a coded map of the entire emanation process from the most concealed levels of divinity all the way down to the worlds we inhabit. So let's get into it. The chapter opens with a verse from the book of Daniel, chapter 12, verse 3, which says, "And they who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the firmament, and they who turn many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever." Now, the Zohar immediately begins unpacking this on a much deeper level than the plain meaning. It tells us that the phrase, "they who are wise," alludes to the souls of the righteous. And the brightness of the firmament refers to the illumination of the Upper Three Sefirot, Keter, Hokmah, and Binah, which are revealed when combined with the attribute of mercy. This is a critical principle. The Upper Three Sefirot are normally too elevated, too concealed, to be perceived by anything below. Their light is absolute and undifferentiated. But when that light is combined with Hesed, with mercy, it becomes something that can be received. It can be revealed. It can shine. And this is exactly what the Zohar is describing here. The atmosphere of the brightness, meaning the most concealed of all concealed things, merge with a single point and shone into it. That point is what the Kabbalists call the Reshimu, the initial impression. And when the concealed light merged with that point, something extraordinary happened. This beginning, and the Zohar specifies this refers to Arich Anpin, the long face, the Partzuf of Keter, expanded into a head and a body, and it made a chamber for its honor and glory. Think about what is happening here. The infinite is structuring itself, creating an internal architecture, a chamber within which something can be planted. And the Zohar says that inside this chamber, Arich Anpin planted a holy seed to bring forth souls for the benefit of the world. This is the origin point of every neshama that has ever descended into this world. The holy seed planted within the chamber of Arich Anpin And the Zohar connects this to Isaiah chapter 6, verse 13. So the holy seed is its immovable stump. The seed remains. It endures beyond every destruction. Now, the Zohar gives us one of its most beautiful analogies. It says the brightness that was sowed for its honor is similar to the purple seed of the silkworm. Because the silkworm encases itself within its own silk, and from that very seed, it prepares for itself a chamber for its own glory and for the benefit of all. This is a stunning image. The silkworm produces the material that becomes its own dwelling. It generates the substance from within itself. And this is exactly what the concealed one does. From within the point of initial light, a chamber is generated, not from external materials, but from its own radiance. And the Zohar tells us that with this beginning, with Arich Anpin, the concealed unknown one created the chamber. And this chamber is called by the name Elohim. We have a direct identification. Elohim, the name used in the verse of the Torah, is not referring to God in some vague general sense. It's referring specifically to the chamber that was generated by the expansion of the primordial point. Elohim is the structure. Elohim is the vessel. Verse 5 makes this even more explicit. The Zohar says, "This is the secret of the words. In the beginning, Elohim created." This chamber is the brightness from which all 10 sayings were created. The 10 sayings, the Asarah Ma'amarot, are the 10 utterances by which God created the world, as described in Genesis chapter 1. Let there be light. Let there be a firmament. Let the waters gather. Each of these utterances is a ma'amar, a saying. And the Zohar is telling us that all 10 of them originated from this single chamber called Elohim. And then it adds something remarkable. It says, if the word created applies to this chamber, then no wonder it is also written, and Elohim created man in his own image. The implication is profound. Humanity was created in the image of this very chamber. The structure of the human soul mirrors the structure of the primordial vessel. In verse 6, the Zohar goes deeper into the divine name that are engraved upon Arich Anpin. It says the holy name Eheyeh, Aleph, Hey, Yod, Hey, meaning I will be, is engraved upon the sides of Arich Anpin, and the name Elohim is engraved on the crown. And then it introduces the word Asher, which means that or which, and says that Asher is a concealed chamber, and it is the beginning of the revelation of the secret of the beginning. Now, here is the linguistic key the Zohar is working with. The word Asher in Hebrew is spelled Aleph, Shin, Resh. And the word Rosh, meaning head, is spelled Resh, Aleph, Sin. They contain the same letters, but in reverse order. The Zohar says this shows that it is the Rosh, the head, that came out of Beresheet, which is Arich Anpin. But it emerged from the aspect of the head and was formed as a headless body. In other words, the chamber that became Elohim emerged from the head of Arich Anpin, but was itself structured without its own head. It is a body that derives its headship from above. This is a Kabbalistic principle. Every lower Partzuf receives its mochin, its consciousness, from the level above it. Nothing is self-sourcing. Everything is sustained by what precedes it in the chain of emanation. Verse 7 takes us further into the architecture of the word Beresheet itself. The Zohar says that after the point and the chamber were established as one, Beresheet, which again is Arich Anpin, includes a lofty beginning for the light of Chokmah. Then the appearance of the chamber changed, and it was called a house, in Hebrew, Bayit. And the supernal point was called the head, Rosh. And here is the key. When you combine the words Bayit and Rosh, you form the word Beresheet. Bayit, Bet Yud Tav, gives you the Bet at the beginning and the last letters. Rosh, Resh, Aleph, Shin, fills in the middle. Together they spell Beresheet. This is not wordplay for its own sake. The Zohar is showing us that Beresheet encodes the union of the head, Chokmah, and the house, Binah. The point and the chamber, the seat and the vessel, included in each other through the secret of the beginning. But then the Zohar adds a condition. It says this was so as long as there was no manner of habitation in the house. As long as Chokmah was not clothed with chasadim, with the waters of mercy, the house had no function. The four colors of the house could not be revealed. It existed in potential, but not yet in expression. However, it was sown for the purpose of habitation, and once it was inhabited, once chasadim flowed into the structure, it was called by the name Elohim, hidden and concealed. Verse 8 describes the moment of conception within this structure. The Zohar says the brightness was concealed and hidden until the children came inside it in order to beget. And then the house expanded to contain what was established through the holy seed. As long as the house had not conceived, the expansion had not occurred. It was not yet called Elohim. Both the point and the chamber were still part of Beresheet, still folded within Arich Anpin, undifferentiated. But after it became known by the name Elohim, it gave birth to the generations that came from the seed sown within it. And then the Zohar asks a direct question. What is that seed? And it answers, the seed is the engraved letters, the secret of the Torah, referring to Zeir Anpin, which emanates from that point, which is Arich Anpin. So the seed is the Hebrew letters, the Torah itself, understood not as a book, but as the living architecture of Zeir Anpin, is what was planted inside the chamber of Binah. The letters are the DNA of creation. They are the seed code from which all the worlds and all the souls unfold. Verse 9 introduces one of the most technical and beautiful teachings in this chapter. The three vowels, the Zohar says that the supernal point, Arich, Anpin, sowed inside the chamber, which it identifies as Yisrael, Saba, and Tevunah, the secret of three vowels, Cholam, Shuruk, and Chirik. These are not just pronunciation marks. In Kabbalah, the vowels represent specific flows of light. Cholam is the light from above, the dot over the letter. Shuruk is the light descending into the center, the dot within the vav. And Chirik is the light emerging below, the dot beneath the letter. Together they combine into one secret, a voice that emerges from the joining of the three vowels. And when this voice comes forth, its female counterpart came with it. She included all the letters. The Zohar connects this to the word the heaven, Hashamayim, in Beresheet chapter 1 verse 1. It says the heaven is the voice and its female principle united. The voice is Zeir Anpin, the female principle is Malkuth, and together they contain all the letters and all the colors. This voice is identified as the last spelling of the name Eheyeh, which contains all the letters and colors within it. So we are seeing a cascade from the concealed point through the three vowels into voice, into the union of masculine and feminine, into the full spectrum of the letters. Now verse 10 ties everything back to one of the most sacred declarations in all of Judaism, the Shema. The Zohar says, until now, this is the secret of Hashem, our Elohim, Hashem. These three grades correspond to the supernal secret in the verse, in the beginning Elohim created. The Zohar maps the three names in the Shema, Yud-Hey, Vav-Hey, Eloheinu, Yud-Hey, Vav-Hey, onto the three terms in the opening verse of the Torah. In the beginning is Chokmah, an ancient secret. Created alludes to Binah, a concealed secret from which everything expands. And Elohim sustains everything that exists below. Then it says the heaven alludes to the union of male and female, and that it is forbidden to separate them. They must be combined because they are the secret of voice and utterance. Yud-K, Vav-K, and Adonai united into one. This is the inner meaning of the Shema. It's not simply a declaration of monotheism. It is a Kabbalistic formula for the unification of the divine names, the union of Zeir Anpin and Malkuth, of voice and speech, of the Holy One and the Shekinah. Verse 11 introduces the word et, Aleph-Tav, which is an untranslatable particle in Hebrew that marks a definitive direct object. The Zohar says et includes all the letters from beginning to end, because Aleph is the first letter and Tav is the last. It contains the entire alphabet within itself. Then the letter Hey was added to Et, forming the word Atah, meaning you. And the Zohar connects this to the verse in Nehemiah, and you do preserve them all. The you, Atah, contains all the letters united with Hey, which represents Malkuth. Et is the secret of the name Adonai. Heaven is the secret of the name Yud-Ke-Vav-Ke. So we have the male principle, Zeir Anpin, called heaven and voice, operating through the tetragrammaton, and we have the female principle, Malkuth, called Et and speech, operating through the name Adonai. Together, they form the complete circuit of creation. Verse 12 takes the word Ve'et and the, and reveals it as the secret of the full establishment of the male and female principles. Ve'et encodes Vav plus Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. Both are as one. The earth, the Zohar says, corresponds to the name Elohim, equivalent to the supernal Elohim, which is fit to issue fruit and offspring. And this name is included in 3 places and defined in many ways. Up until now, says the Zohar, everything we have discussed is the secret of the most secret of mysteries. It was engraved, built, and established in a concealed manner according to the hidden meaning of one single verse. Beresheet Bara Elohim et Hashamayim ve'et haaretz. One verse, 7 words, and within it the entire architecture of the Olamot, the worlds, the Partzuvim, the divine names, the union of masculine and feminine, all encoded. And then verse 13 delivers the final revelation of this chapter. The Zohar says Beresheet can be divided into 2 segments, Bara, Shit, meaning he created 6 branches that extend from one end of the heaven to the other, expanding from the secret of the sublime. These 6 branches are the 6 Sefirot of Zeir Anpin, Hesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. They are the 6 directions of space, the 6 days of creation, the 6 extensions of the divine voice into form. Bara, created, expanded from within the first point, which is Arich Anpin. And here, on the first point, the secret of the name with 42 letters was engraved. The 42-letter name of God, the Bekoach. This is the name that powers the entire process of creation. It was engraved upon the primordial point from which all of reality unfolds. If you have studied the Bekoach, and many of you have, you now understand its origin at a deeper level. It's not just a prayer or a meditation tool. It's the creative engine of the universe, encoded in 42 letters, engraved at the very beginning of emanation. So let's step back and see what the Zohar has shown us in this one chapter. The infinite light was concealed. A point emerged. That point expanded into a chamber called Elohim. Inside it, a holy seed was planted, the Hebrew letters, Zeir Anpin. 3 vowels generated a voice. That voice united with its female counterpart, the heaven and the earth, Yud-K, Vav-K, and Adonai, all encoded in the 7 words of Beresheet Bara Elohim et Hashamayim ve'et haaretz. And the foundation of it all, the 42-letter name. This is the Zohar's blueprint of creation. Not a story about something that happened in the past, but a living architecture that is operating right now, in every moment, sustaining every world and every soul. In the next video, we will continue into chapter 3 and keep building on this foundation. If this is resonating with you, subscribe so you do not miss the next one. I will see you in the next video. Shalom.